Preventing his extradition. Journalism is under attack because they want to prevent the crimes being published to the people. Honest journalism, free journalism. Hello. How are you? Fine. Do you know Julian Assange? That's fantastic. Take that one as well. You got to start, yeah, you have to start learning about who this man is, right? Julian Assange, revealing war crimes is not a crime. Preventing his extradition to the United States. We have to prevent Julian Assange's extradition to the United States. A journalist for the NEWSWEEK publication resigned his position because he was not allowed to report honestly on the leaks coming out of scientists working for the OPCW. And so NEWSWEEK is, I think, it's a global publication, and there were serious journalists within that organisation that wanted to talk about the leaks coming out of the OPCW. Scientists who were working for that organisation who went to Syria in 2018 to investigate allegations that the Syrian government had used chemical weapons against Syrians in the city of Douma. Those scientists, when they arrived in Syria, found that the stories which had been promoted, which were used to justify an American bombing of Syria, were false. And the scientists who investigated that story said that their investigations and their understandings and conclusions based on their work in Syria had not been expressed in the report put out by the OPCW. In other words, there must have been some kind of political meddling in the operation of the OPCW by probably the US government to prevent the truth from coming out about that Syrian story. And so journalism is, it's non-existent in mainstream media. You have the infiltration of the state in order to carry out a narrative, to promote a narrative, to justify a policy. That's what it's all about in mainstream media today. The struggle for Julian Assange is not a legal struggle. It's a revolutionary struggle against oppressors, against the capitalist system, which drowns the whistleblowers, which drowns the truth, and makes those who stand up for the truth illegal in their eyes. Where in actual fact, the illegal entities are within the government themselves.
There's no point listening to the mainstream media news. I think it was interesting what we discussed last week about the Spanish court case. Hopefully something will come out of that that'll help Julian in his cause. The spying on the Ecuadorian embassy by the CIA is just outrageous. But a lot of what the CIA does is outrageous, unfortunately. So we just have to make sure we tell people what's happening and just keep turning up and fighting the good fight.
Bill Binney, he had an inside source from the CIA saying that Lucifer 2 and DC leaks were created by the CIA.
Right.
Of course, it's just his word that he has a source, but he hasn't said anything wrong.
Everything he says is credible.
Yes.
That's right.
Use your critical thinking skills.
And he's got no reason to make this up. I mean, he's a whistleblower for the NSA.
And he would be going for a burden if he's lying.
That's right. And he's another brave man who's taking a risk by shining a light on truth.
Yes.
If we don't protect these people, we're going to live in the dark, not knowing what's going on. But it just goes to show that the beat up of RussiaGate was just a beat up. That's what it was. Just something they made up to try and hang on Julian and make an excuse for losing an election.
Distract everyone.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Don't look here.
Probably to get their hands on Julian without the public. Because in America, apparently, a lot of people don't like Julian because of
the emails.
the Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
I can't refute your argument.
I think there's a lot of people who are blinded and are just fans of Hillary who aren't willing to really listen and read the true facts. What were revealed in those emails were never disputed. The information was never disputed. No one said, no, she didn't send that email. But it really shows what a candidate she was. She was willing to lie to people. And I think she lost the election. Nothing to do with Russia. Nothing to do with Julian. She was just a bad candidate.
It's not about Julian Assange's rights, it's about the universal man's human rights. It's about people being treated fairly by governments everywhere and not being lied into incredibly evil things. And it's a global thing, it's not just Assange. And we all have to stand up for the rights of the individual, or otherwise the state becomes more and more corrupt. And all kinds of states, they have no respect for the rights of the individual because they're so corrupt. They close ranks, they lie for each other, and the individual becomes, it's Orwellian basically. We're in an Orwellian phase in the Western world. And I think we have to stand up and make governments accountable. So it's about the accountability of public officials. Sure, private citizens have got to be accountable, so do public officials. And that we've got to break down in any kind of the enforcement of law in the public officials' domain. So at the end of the day, they close rank and cover for each other, and they get away with everything. Look at the wars. Look what the damage has been done in Iraq. In my view, entirely unnecessarily, based on lies, and George Bush is playing golf and painting portraits. Absolved of any kind of crime, which has been deliberate lies that have killed millions of people, and displaced many millions more, and destroyed whole nations. So I think the individual has to say, well, enough, stop the wars, get back to sensible justice everywhere. Thank you. Yes, Assange. Yes, Assange.
Where's the petition? Free Assange! Yes, where is he? It's just ridiculous. I don't even understand what's going on in Australia. Our government's absolutely just so apathetic about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so please support.
Yeah, no,
Julian Assange
definitely,
and,
definitely. I'm pretty sure I've probably signed at least
Well,
a
just
couple of them. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
So
That's right.
there are
10,000
some good
signatures.
articles if you want to read, and this
Okay.
one is very good.
Yeah, I've read up about it. Yeah, no worries. Thank you so
very
much.
girls.
Good on you guys.
Yeah.
Free Julian Assange. Prevent his extradition to the United States. Revealing war crimes is not a crime. Journalism is under attack.
Just want to take a photo of Laura.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting.
Free Julian, free Chelsea, free whistleblowers. Journalism performs a great act when it's done with honesty and integrity. Trotsky wrote, when in the wake of the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, right? Trotsky, who was at the time he was the Commissar for War and Foreign Minister for the Soviet government, right? One of the first things that they did was publish the secret treaties which had been signed by the Tsarist Empire and the imperialist governments of Europe. And in those treaties, they demonstrated that behind the backs of the people of Europe and the world, in fact, that they had come to some kind of an arrangement over the division of the world into new markets and new spheres of influence. And one of the first things that Trotsky did as the foreign minister for the Soviet Union at the time, or the Russian government at the time, in the wake of the October Revolution, was to publish all of those secret treaties. And to me, you know, that represents the pattern that needs to be, I don't know, implemented worldwide. But of course, that can't happen in a capitalist society because the capitalists are a minority, and their crimes cannot be revealed to the public because then they'll lose their their grip on power. Central to the attack on journalism and WikiLeaks and Julian Assange is the fact that the people who have conspired to create horror for the world's people are planning on carrying out new attacks. Hello, sir. That was in March. They gave them $6 million, but of course that was based on their cooperation with the American government, right? And the cooperation was that Ecuador delivered Julian Assange to the United States via Britain.
But they borrowed it.
No, well they borrowed, but what they call so the International Money Fund gives out loans. And then those loans come with austerity measures, right? That's how they make them.
But they still there.
Yeah, still in England. Is an Australian citizen, yes. Yeah. And yet that citizenship counts for nothing. It counts. Look, when you're a citizen of a country, you have rights, okay? You have rights, and if you don't commit a crime, you are entitled, even if you commit a crime, but if you do not commit a crime, you are entitled to the full presence of your government in standing up for your rights. And they are not doing that at all. So he's being tortured, which is an abrogation of his rights as a human being, as a citizen as well of Australia. He is being extradited to a country where Britain has forbidden, legally speaking, has forbidden the extradition of people for political reasons to other countries. I mean, every one of his legal rights is being trampled upon. So what does citizenship mean? I mean, what does it mean? They can do the same to you or I, right? Anyone.
Have you seen what's happening with the refugees?
What with regards to that kind of live, with regards to the live, what you mean? You look at the big picture, so from the speaking, right, okay, so maybe it's not in practice.
Have you heard about the ABC being raided by the Australian?
Online media.